The Anti-Resume, interviews that shouldn't work but do.
Welcome to the Anti-Resume, where we explore job interviews that broke every rule but somehow led to dream jobs. I'm Sarah, and today we're diving into the story of Alex Chen, a senior developer who told their potential employer that their entire code review process was fundamentally broken, and walked away with a team lead position. Alex set the scene for us. What was this interview for?
Team lead position at a fintech startup, about 150 people growing fast. They were known for having really high engineering standards, which, spoiler alert, turned out to be part of the problem.
So you're in the final round. What was the question that led to the moment?
The engineering manager asked me to walk through how I'd handle code reviews for the team. Standard question, right? Expected answer. I'd ensure thorough reviews, catch bugs early, maintain code quality.
But that's not what you said.
Not even close.
Wavy lines and different lighting.
So Alex, how would you approach code reviews with your team?
Before I answer that, can I ask about your current process?
Sure, we require 2 approvals on every PR comprehensive review guidelines, and we have a pretty thorough checklist.
How long do your PRs typically sit waiting for review?
Well, sometimes a few days.
And how often do developers create smaller PRs to avoid the review bottleneck?
That does happen.
Right, so here's the thing, your code review process is broken.
Record scratch.
I'm sorry.
You've created a system that optimizes for finding problems rather than preventing them. 2 mandatory approvals? That's not quality assurance, that's bureaucracy. Developers are probably splitting logical changes into tiny PRs to game the system, which actually makes the code harder to understand.
But we need to maintain quality standards.
Do you? What's your actual bug rate in production? How many critical issues have been caught in code review versus missed? I'm betting most bugs that make it to production aren't the kind that code reviews catch anyway.
At this point, most candidates would be updating their LinkedIn. You doubled down.
I figured I was already in trouble, so why not be honest? I asked Mike about their real problems. What's your biggest engineering challenge right now?
Well, velocity has been slowing down. Features are taking longer to ship.
And how much of that is due to the review process?
More than I'd like to admit.
Here's what I'm seeing. You have smart developers who are probably frustrated by a process that slows them down without meaningfully improving quality. They're probably finding workarounds, which creates inconsistency. And you're spending more time on process overhead than actual engineering.
But code reviews are industry best practice.
Says who? The same industry that brought us daily stand-ups that take an hour and sprint planning that takes longer than the actual sprint.
Alex grinning at the camera.
So you just criticized their process. Did you offer a solution?
Of course, criticism without alternatives is just complaining. Look, I'm not saying eliminate code reviews. I'm saying optimize for the right outcomes. Instead of mandatory dual approval, why not focus on knowledge sharing and continuous improvement?
What would that look like?
Pair programming for complex features, async reviews focused on learning, not gatekeeping, automated checks for the stuff humans shouldn't waste time on, and most importantly, measure what matters. Track cycle time, not just approval time.
But how do we maintain quality?
Quality comes from good engineering practices, not review checklists. Better testing, clearer requirements, and engineers who actually understand the business context. If you need 2 people to approve every change, either your engineers aren't trustworthy, in which case you have a hiring problem, or your process is creating artificial safety theater.
How did Mike react to this?
He got quiet for a minute, then he said something I didn't expect.
You know, our best developers have been saying similar things in our retros.
And what's been the response?
Honestly, we've been dismissing it as complaints about process, but when you frame it as a systems problem.
That's exactly what it is. You have smart people working in a system that doesn't trust them. That's not a people problem, that's a leadership problem.
What would you do differently?
First, I'd gather data. How long do PRs actually sit? What percentage of review feedback is stylistic versus substantive? What's the correlation between review rigor and production bugs? You can't improve what you don't measure. Then I'd experiment, try different approaches with different teams. Maybe one team does pair programming, another does post-merge reviews for learning. See what works for your culture and code base.
And if some developers resist the changes?
Then you listen to them. Resistance often comes from real concerns. Maybe they've been burned by bad code before. Maybe they don't trust the testing pipeline. Address the root causes, don't just enforce compliance.
Back to the present, how did Mike respond to this systematic approach?
He leaned back in his chair and said something that completely changed the dynamic of the interview.
You know what? I think we've been asking the wrong interview questions. We keep asking people how they'd work within our system, but maybe we should be asking how they'd improve it.
That's exactly the mindset you need for a team lead role. You're not just managing people, you're optimizing systems and processes to help your team succeed.
Would you be interested in starting Monday? Because I think you're exactly what our team needs.
So what happened next?
Mike asked if I could start Monday.
Wait, what? After you basically told them they were doing everything wrong.
That's exactly why they hired me. They had a problem they knew existed but couldn't solve. I didn't just point out the problem, I showed them how to think about it differently.
How did it work out?
6 months later, our deployment frequency doubled and our bug rate actually went down. Turns out when developers aren't fighting the process, they can focus on actually building good software.
And the team's reaction.
They were skeptical at first, but when they saw their PRs getting merged in hours instead of days and they could actually iterate quickly on features, the resistance melted away. Developers want to ship good code, they just need systems that support that goal.
What would you tell other candidates who are tempted to challenge their interviewers' assumptions?
First, make sure you actually understand the problem before you criticize the solution. I spent time asking questions and listening. Second, always offer alternatives. Critique without solutions is just complaining. But most importantly, be genuine. I wasn't trying to be contrarian for the sake of it. I genuinely believed their process was hurting their team, and I cared enough about engineering excellence to speak up about it.
And for hiring managers watching this,
Pay attention when candidates challenge your assumptions. If they can identify real problems in a 30-minute interview, imagine what they could do with full context and authority. Sometimes the best hire is the one who makes you uncomfortable.
Alex Chen, everyone proof that sometimes the best interview answer is the one that challenges everything the interviewer believes. Thanks for sharing your story.
Thanks for having me. And remember, if your process requires perfect people to work well, you need a better process.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Anti-Zoom. Next time, we'll hear from a developer who got hired after admitting they Google everything. Until then, remember, sometimes the most honest answer is the most valuable one.
Subscribe for more unconventional career stories.